take number 2, Panozzo, of tonight's show. Matchroom does not
Yeah,
want us
we're
talking
getting to
about
some
the.
really good stuff.
We were just getting on a roll, buddy. Little did they know. All right, so let's pick up right where we left off, Mike. We're going to break down the final 64, and we're also going to go and jump into today's matches. On the winner's side,
Yeah,
we ended
just
up leaving off on. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
well, I was just saying, there were a lot of great matches in the winner's side. I think the ones we probably want to talk about the most are Shane Wolford and Oscar, right? I mean, um, we talked about it last night. That we thought Oscar was pretty close to a lock, anyways, for Mosconi, and Shane Wolford certainly close. And how important it was to me, at least. I mean, I didn't make any predictions, but certainly to me, it was important that they went out today and took on these two heavy duty opponents. And what a statement they could each make if they could win this match. How much confidence it would give them, how much confidence it might give Jeremy Jones, how much confidence it might give American fans to see them make a statement win, even if they don't get past the 64. At this point, to me, what they did today was critical because they knew going into these matches that this was time for them to show up and show what they got. And they both came through. It was amazing. Shane Wolford put a good beat down on Little Cole.
Wasn't just the
And,
win,
and,
Mike.
and then Oscar fought back from 8-6 down to a win 9-8 against Sanjan Pelbanovic. Those are two big wins, and I was so happy to see both of those guys come through and make those statement wins when they had the chance to do it.
I'm 100% with you, and I'm going to ask you today. So if you made that prediction yesterday, are these two guys on your Mosconi Fire for the red, white, and blue?
Locked and loaded.
100%. No questions. Nobody else is going to
100%.
go and take those
Well,
spots.
there's a couple things that are going on here today, and one is they weren't alone, right? There were a lot of Americans today with a chance to make a statement, with a
Chris had
chance
a
to
good
show
comeback
their
today
mettle.
against a strong Polish player too.
Yeah. So we had Chris Reinhold had a great comeback, almost won on the hill, and then went on the loser side and won on the hill. Big match. Um, guys like Nick DeLeon, Greg Hogue, Billy Thorpe. Those guys, got torched. Um,
Well, Greg's still
Greg
in.
came back.
Yeah.
Greg came back through the losers bracket and didn't get his way back into the 64. But in today's winners round matches, Billy wasn't in the winners round, but a couple of those guys who were winners round, they didn't do as well. So I think those kind of things all mixed together. I mean, if you were Greg Hogue, um, and I'm looking at Team USA, he had to do more than he did today. So, um, so I would give Shane and Oscar the edge over him. I'd give them both the edge over Nick DeLeon. Things like Josh Rouse. Um, so it just to me it was these guys stepped up against big time opponents with all the pressure on them to make a statement, and they did that. And so for me, these two guys are on for sure with Sky and Shane, and now it's up to a number 5. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, it's not just the win. It's not just winning to get through to the final 64. Okay, congratulations, right? If you consider yourself cream of the crop, that should be a foregone conclusion. It's the fact that you beat Ko Ping Chung, many consider a top 10 player. Sanjin, who's been, you know, kind of what Federer was a few years ago on knocking on the door of being, a strong European dominant player in back-to-back European Open, or was it the European Championships finals, 9-ball and in 10-ball, and a World Games final, if everyone remembers as well, playing Josh Filler,
Yeah.
and was up big in that matchup as well. I'm 1,000% on board with you, Mike. I'm a little bit more biased because I'm going to go and say more. I would like to go and say more so on Oscar, but that's just my biasness talking. What Wolford did today, you know, playing the way that he did and beating Ko, the manner in which he beat him, I'm with you. I think he punched his ticket. I think if there was any doubts, He's lasted longer than Billy. We all know Sky is going to go and be there. There's no way you leave that. There's no way you go and leave that guy out. But I think those two guys in particular punch their tickets. I think we're going to see them this December at Bally's. I don't think there's any way you can leave off Oscar at this point. Maybe if someone goes and steals a spot, right? Maybe because then you're going to have to pick Sky, and then who knows if something funky kind of happens, right? Um, but 1,000%, I think that Oscar and Wolford got on there. We got a question in the chat, Mike, from Ryman Harmson says, does Bustamante have U.S. citizenship? So we talked about this
Not
yesterday,
I'm
Mike, me and
aware.
you.
I've been told no. I've been told that he's applied or considered it or whatever, but I've been told that he does not have U.S. citizenship.
The same. Yeah, I was told he does not have U.S. citizenship, but he is working on it the same way as Mike um, said it just now. If he were to be eligible for Team USA, I'm having him as number 5, and I'm not even thinking twice about it, Mike. Hell, I might even have him as number 4. I might
Yeah,
have him as my first wild card pick. I might go and pick Joven. The way that he handles himself on the table, he mopped the floor with Carlo pretty much. He had his way. He almost 3-fouled Carlo.
yeah.
How
Those,
how how strong was that, right? He can beat you a number of different ways. The stage didn't go and rattle that guy at all. When you're playing on a
no.
U.S. Open TV table against the reigning champion, one of your good friends, and you go and beat him 9-6 when on paper you're an underdog, and you look like you were right there in that same class. I tell you what, Mike, if he was eligible, I'm not even thinking twice. I'm putting that guy in.
Well, you know what? We got a year to start a petition and get him eligible. So, I think that we start talking to our immigration lawyers and get him lined up for next year. If he's not a citizen now, let's make it happen.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, that was a phenomenal matchup. There was a few other ones that were on deck. Jason Shaw beats Robbie Capito in 9-6. Robbie, I think had the lead, something like 6-5 in that matchup, Mike, and
Yeah.
and then Jason does what Jason does. The guy's a finisher. He's a closer. He is who I expect to be one of the wild card picks for Team Europe. I don't care if he loses the next 2 rounds, Mike, and I'm going to say it again. I don't care. Well, actually, not 2 rounds. He can only lose 1 round going forward. I don't care if he loses to Levan Corteza in the final 64. I think Jason is a lock on this year's Mosconi Cup. I think that guy is just box office, and I'd be willing to bet a lot of money on that.
So
On the
I think that he was a lock for that team before this event even started.
Agreed, 1,000% agreed. The other matchup that for me was marquee was the Copigny and Johan Chua matchup. If I
Great man.
think about if we think about the Mosconi Cup, and I know to your ears start to bleed when I bring up the potential of a Reyes Cup. But these are two guys that if I were picking a Team Asia, certainly guys that I would go and have in consideration in Johan Chua and Copigny.
Picking Team Asia would be harder than picking Team Europe.
I agree. I agree. I
I
mean,
mean,
you would
you
have
start
you would
going.
have you would have Wu on there without it having seen him play in the last 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, it would be really hard to narrow Team Asia down to 5. Really hard.
No, 1,000%. But that was a really great matchup. It really went back and forth. Both players showed, well, actually, Ko showed his ability to go and close, but he also showed moments where he kind of rattled a little bit,
Mhm.
left a lot on the table, made some kind of mistakes. We're known for these Taiwanese players and the Ko brothers in particular for having such fluid fundamentals. It seemed to kind of get away from him a little bit in this matchup, but nevertheless, 9-7 win over Chua. Both of them are through to the final 64, but Johan had to win another match just to get there, Mike.
Yeah, great. That was a great matchup. It was worth. I was glad it was on a TV table because I wanted to see both of those guys. Go at it. Um, that was a terrific match. Um,
Another guy who's through, Mike, is Jesus Atencio beating Gregory Hogue, nine
yeah,
four. I tell you, like if I'm gonna go and pick maybe a quote unquote dark horse or a sleeper, maybe not one of these Vogue names besides Joven, because I think Joven's kind of in that Jesus kind of class there. I'm picking Jesus, man. That kid is picking up and picking up steam. His stock is continuing to rise. I don't want to say it's on the rise because it's been on the rise for the last 2 years,
Yeah,
but it's continuing to, and he made it on the biggest stage, Mike.
yeah, he has. He's a great young talent, and he's going to be around for a while. He's starting to get his confidence playing at this level against these guys, on a continual basis. He can make a deep run in this. Another guy who went through that winners bracket after surviving a huge scare yesterday, all of a sudden looks like he's right back in stroke is FSR.
What was it, like a 9-2 win, 9-1 win over a
9-1.
strong, a
Yeah,
strong
9-1.
player from Finland? I
Well,
mean,
that's the guy who he beat that Yanni Uski, 9-1, and then the Finn went over to the loser side and beat Billy Thorpe 9-0.
so that just shows what kind of player he really is, right?
Well, I mean, but what does that tell you about? We keep thinking
Francisco.
almost that Billy Thorpe is kind of kind of the default guy for Team USA as a wild card pick because of experience on Mosconi Cup, but he got drilled. He did nothing in this tournament. Nothing. Got drilled by Chris Melling, who's not even playing 9 ball these days, and then 9-0 to a Finn that I'd never even heard of before.
Okay, so then who's number 5 for USA, Mike? Or you're if you're not gonna
It'll,
if you're not gonna put Billy in, who are you putting in?
well, that's I didn't want to say it because but the argument would be if you're going with Shane, you're going with Oscar, your fifth guy's got to be someone else who's been here before and done that. I don't think you can go with another wild card pick that
So
hasn't played.
am I hearing Earl kind of come from your chest here, Mike? Is that what I'm
It's
hearing?
well,
And you just
it
you
would
can't bring yourself to go and utter the words.
well, it would have to be in that type of thing. Otherwise, you just take Billy because of experience and hope that he gets his shit together between now and December. Because I do agree that in that fifth spot, you're going to need someone who you don't have to teach the ropes to, right? And I think that they have to go with, you're not going with Corey Deuel anymore. I don't think.
Corey's out.
So
Corey's not even in. I mean,
yeah, so
Corey.
so really, to me, if that's your philosophy, then you're looking at a Billy or an Earl, right?
We've had Jeremy on a few times, and he's a regular on the show, and we always enjoy having him on. But he'll tell you himself. I think this is the year where they got to show some results, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and Jeremy's not one of these rah 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 kind of guys where they chalk up moral victories. Even though I think last year was as much of a moral victory as you can go and get, all things considered. Um, they're looking to win, Mike. Who's going to give you the best chance to go and win and to go and get you 2-3 points? Is it Billy? Is it Earl? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, and that's kind of what he's going to tussle with now. Because again, I'll say I think he's got to go with someone who's got some experience, and if that's the case, I'm probably going to go ahead and still take Billy. Billy was terrible this week, but he's that type of
There's some
fighter.
more Americans who are still in this event, Mike, and we know
Well,
Nick's out. We know Nick's out, and he's a long shot to make a wild card. Chris Reinhold is still in this event. He can still go and make a little bit of a run. Tom Gorman brings up Tyler for my money, and I mean this as respectfully as I can. When you go and have a 9-2 showing against Shane, the way that Shane kind of had his way with him, it'd be tough
yeah, yeah, it
for
would be.
Tyler. But if
Yeah.
Chris, if Chris does something, we haven't even really talked about Chris a lot this year. But if Chris were to go on a run, given how Billy went out the way he did, we ain't seen Earl since before the press conference, since he got off the plane in England last December. We ain't seen him. Okay. So, who would you go and have in, Mike? If the goal is to win, I get it. It's a TV show. They're looking for ratings as well. And if we go and weigh that a lot, and rightfully so, then I'm 1,000% with you. Let's bring on the circus. Let's bring in. I'd be fine with either one of them. I'd be fine with Billy because Billy ignites that crowd. He fires up that team. I'd be fine with Earl because he's going to put asses in the seats and he's going to have a bunch of eyes going and watching that car wreck and hoping that he goes off. But if you're looking to win, Mike, who are you putting in?
If I'm looking to win, um,
Who would you roll the dice on? Because it's going to be a
I,
gamble.
if I'm rolling the dice, I'm rolling with Billy because he's got that personality you want on your team. Earl, too dangerous. Now, Earl can still play. Earl can still
He
win.
can be volatile
Earl
too,
Earl
from a
can
team standpoint.
also submarine your whole team,
He can.
right?
That he
That's
can.
what you that's what you don't want to have. Billy will never submarine the team. So
No,
I
Billy will
think
pick your
Billy.
ass up when you're on whenever you're falling down. Billy's the guy to pick you up and to dust you off and tell you to keep fighting.
So
You know.
I think it's a decent arena for Billy, more so than Chris, more so than Tyler. Tyler was super strong. Everybody remembers 2018. He was super strong right out of the gate. I haven't seen a lot since. So if I had to go, I'd probably go Billy.
I, I think it's tough, Mike. I think it's I think it's really tough. I think that if one of these guys, like Chris, hell, maybe even Tyler, if Tyler goes on a Cinderella run after losing to Shane the way that he did, you never know. But I really believe it's as for the taking as it can be, all things considered. Hell, if Greg went on a run and let's say he goes and chops down and gets down to a final eight, you're going to start thinking about him. I can guarantee you. I mean, it's a reach, but you're going to think about him. You're going to go and start weighing those wins and losses a lot more. If I'm Jeremy, I think I'm with you from the experience and the chemistry standpoint, where I can't leave Billy at home. And for me, for what my eyes have seen of Billy this year, I go back to the Expo, and I remember him taking Jason Hill. Jason's coming off the heels of running whatever that straight pull record was. I can't even think of the number off the top of my head right now, but
Seven
um,
14.
714. Yeah, so Jason was in full gear, full gear, and he goes and uh puts him in there at Hill. So
Yeah, I would have thought Billy was pretty much a lock as that second wild card pick or the first wild card pick until he laid an egg this week. I was so disappointed to see him do absolutely nothing this week and look bad doing it. So that's what bothered me the most. But I think that that's still your safest bet if you're trying to weigh everything: experience, team chemistry, the ability to I mean, it's still a race to five. Can Billy snap back into it for a couple of race to five singles wins? Possibly. So I think from those standpoints, I mean, Tyler, he's still in the tournament. If he made a run, then it all of a sudden become. And beating Sharik Syed to get into the final 64 doesn't do it for me. So now he steps up into the final 64. You want to see him do something, right? He pulls Federer.
let me
So didn't work out so well for
let me throw out a name here, Mike. Just for the It's a TV show, right? It's a TV show, and I think I think it gives you about as good a chance as any. I think that as much as you can say that the stage got the better of him, it also showed that he can go and handle it to a certain extent. And especially what everything we talked about yesterday, Mike.
him. What are we
What if
talking, Joey Ryan here or what?
what if Joey Tate gets brought up and discussed after that
You
that Shane match, Mike?
you
And
can't.
I'm gonna say, is he did he do better? Did he show you more than what Billy did? I know he went out earlier, but did he show you more today? And I mean that, maybe not specifically today,
This
but
event,
like in
yeah,
in the event, more so than Billy did. And remember, Joey was also on the World Team Games with Tyler and April when they had no shot, and they went and did their thing out there as best they could with one cue sharing between the three of them.
yeah. I like the thought. I just don't think if you're Jeremy and you think you got to win, that you're taking Shane Wolford and Joey Tate in with you in the same year. I just don't. I think that's too risky to do. Um, that's asking way too much of these two young kids to be 2 out of 5 of your team against the European team. I think it's asking too much. And Oscar, Oscar's on there too,
If
and he's not a first timer, but he's only been on a couple times and hasn't had the greatest success. So I think that would be a dangerous game to play with Joey Tate.
What have you seen of Wolford on a TV table against a player like Shane? And think about all those factors, Mike. On a TV table at the U.S. Open against a player like Shane, you can you make the argument that Joey can handle it?
Well, he was on the TV table again today. Didn't look very good against Christina.
Well, but maybe he's still a little
Missed a lot of
nicked up.
shots. Played a lot of bad saves. Things like he didn't look good today. He looked like okay, maybe yesterday took everything out of him. And today he just wasn't as sharp mentally, focus wise. Now put that on steroids, and you've got day 2 at the Mosconi Cup.
Billy Thorpe, welcome to Team USA, buddy. Mike, Mike convinced me. I can't go and pick Earl as much as I would love to go and see Earl. I can't go and put him in this team. We ain't seen him since last year. I love a good redemption story, Mike. I do in my soul, I do, man. I really love the idea of someone getting a second shot, especially with Earl, because you know if somehow or some way he gets on this team, there's a lot of odds says this will probably be his last year playing on a Mosconi Cup. This will be his final
Who's
dance.
that?
Just Earl. If Earl were to
Earl?
go and
They
yeah,
said that they said that when he played in 2013.
well, yeah, but I mean, come on, Mike. You look at the players who are maybe coming up. I think it's going to be a decent transition year. I would bet a lot of money that, let's say, Earl doesn't get on for the next 5 years. If he were to get on this year, lays a dud. That's just me. But anyway, moving on, Mike. We got a bunch of other matchups from today.
One quick one. Someone says, "What if Tyler beats Federer tomorrow?" Get him a jersey.
Are you serious?
If he beats Federer tomorrow, get him a jersey.
Are you saying that jokingly, or are you being serious? If he goes
if I'm Jeremy and I'm watching it tomorrow after I've watched Billy Thorpe the last 2 days, and Tyler Stein goes in there and beats Federer course in the U.S. Open, yep.
Well, you want to talk about pressure? I mean, that's really weighted. That's really weighted, Mike, quite a bit. Okay.
So Tyler, this is all you have to do tomorrow.
Oh, you got to win 2 matches, right? You go and win the first one against who's his first round matchup against?
No,
it's not.
Plays
he plays Federer the first round. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, you want to. It's a match for 15,000, is what you're saying, Mike.
Plus, if that's the
with
case,
the potential of being 30,000.
Plus, if that's the case, he probably gets filler right after that, because the brackets are still set up like they were originally, which means tomorrow, second round at that part of the bracket would be Federer against Filler.
Okay, let me ask you a question here, Mike. Let's say that happens. Let's say Tyler goes and beats Federer. Is Federer on Team Europe losing to Tyler Steyer?
Yes.
Is this thing on?
Yes. Because I think Albin and FSR have the points things locked up. So now you got 2 picks. You got Jason. You got Federer. Who are you going to take over Federer? I don't care who he loses to tomorrow.
I mean, Mario, he's still in it. He can technically still go and make a run.
And Mario, he's got a shot. If
look, he's playing Reinhold. What if, let's say, Chris goes and wins? If Chris gets past Mario, I really like. We're gonna go over the winner side matchups here in a minute, but I mean, there's a lot of potential here. Let's just finish up on the matchups from today, and then we'll go and make that transition over. Besides that, Mike, we saw the reigning European Open champion in Albin Ocean go down to a strong Taiwanese player. Victor Zelinsky beats his fellow countryman Daniel Maciel 9-7. Chang Jun-Lin sends Nick on the 1-loss side, and Nick unfortunately did not make it out of today. His year is done. I think he's kind of a stretch to make this year's Mosconi Cup. But Nick did have a fantastic year, his first year really out and having a full season. So congratulations to Nick.
I mean, good for him to take in the swings that he took. I mean, he went in there, he played everything.
Without a doubt.
He learned a ton this year. He grew a lot this year. And hopefully he can use that as motivation for next year.
I'm browsing here through the 1-loss side, Mike, and there's not really a whole lot that stands out to me. But on that discussion of the Mosconi Cup, I see Josh Roberts losing 9-6 over Sky. I know Josh wanted to make like a last minute push to maybe try to put his name in contention. Do you think there's any chance at all he makes this year's team?
No,
Okay.
I mean, he's a good player, and everybody talks about him. He's got a lot of talent, and he doesn't fear anyone. I don't think, I don't know how close he was on Jeremy's list, but I don't know, um, you know, that he made that he really did anything to make Jeremy say, I can't live without this guy. Just my just my gut.
Let's just call Tony. Put Tony on a plane. Tony loves Las Vegas, by the way. Let's just send Tony over to Vegas and let him have a couple of swings at Team Europe and see how he does. I mean,
You know what? That would be if you're gonna take a flyer, you may as well do it with someone like that. Although, like I said, I don't know if they're gonna let him wear the long shorts at Mosconi Cup.
if he can't rock the Jays, Tony is out. He is 100% out. I can guarantee you that. Let's make the switch over, Mike. Final 64. It's single elimination from here on out. I believe the races are still going to be to 9. If you guys look over on your screen, you can see the matchups from top to bottom, and we got a few different screens we're going to go and show you guys. But first off, right off the bat, Mike Jovan Bustamante picks up where he left off from Carlo, and he's got Chris Melling in his sights. I tell you, I really like this matchup for Jovan if I'm rooting for him, if I'm a fan of him, which I am.
Yeah, I mean you do. I mean Chris, like I say, he hasn't really been playing much 9 ball, but he's one of those rhythm guys that if he does get in the groove and he starts dancing around that table like he can do,
Yeah.
he can put up 9 in a hurry on anybody. But yeah, I
I
like
love
Joe.
his the way he plays the game, by the way.
Yeah,
I mean,
love it.
I love watching Chris Melling play pool.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care what cue sport it is. I love watching him play.
So that, but I think I probably would, if I'm a betting guy, I'm going to take Joven in that. He's playing really well here.
It's
Yeah,
crazy you're saying that. Like, a guy like Chris Melling with his resume and Jovan Bustamante, which what he's done over the last year and really making a name for himself, going and making that kind of pick. Because I don't think 12 months from now you're saying that. You know,
yeah,
like if let's say this is an early round matchup, right, of last year, there's no way in hell you're going and picking Jovan over Chris. But look at everything that Jovan's done. So hats off to
yeah.
him.
You played a
Next,
hot hand. Yeah,
yeah, without a doubt. Next up, Mike, you got Alex Paguline, who survived Sil Hill against Ralph Suke. He faces Bader in the next round. Tell you this is dangerous for the old lion, Mike.
yeah. No, I think I would probably, if I had to pick one in this round, I'd probably go better. Um, Alex kind of snuck through a couple of tight matches that, I don't know. It just out of while he's one of those guys who just kind of seems to be under the radar a lot, but he always knocks off a couple of people that you didn't think he was going to beat. I think Alex is kind of ripe for that.
There's 3 Kuwaitis still in, Mike. I think Al Yusuf made it through the day, if I'm not mistaken. I
Yes, he
know,
did.
I know Omar. Oh, that's
Team
right,
Canova.
Omar. Oh, Team Put. Oh, of course. Um, Bader's playing really good. He's been playing good for the last 12 months, Mike. He's been
Yeah,
very consistent. He's kind of just, moved his elbows and pushed guys out of the way and said, I'm here. And um, I like him today over Alex. I do, playing 9 ball. I think
yeah,
he's had a lot of experience playing out here. I mean, hell, I remember last year, I think Alex went something like 2-0 at the US Open, if I'm not
yeah,
mistaken. But maybe Collins, and we're not going to get a whole lot into our fantasy, but maybe Collins was onto something when it comes to the post break stuff, because Alex is still here. And if the break starts getting a little janky, you got to like the guy to be able to move his way around and figure out a way and use his savviness and his knowledge to go and get him through. But if they can find the break, give me Bader all day long, Mike.
yeah. Did it look? You were watching the Masters today. Did it look like if they're talking about you have to use a forceful break? Were there a lot of guys kind of like right on that borderline to you?
Cole looked like that.
Yeah,
If I'm gonna go,
there were a couple
yeah,
guys to me that were kind of looking like they were hitting it hard, but they really weren't.
no,
So
I
it'd just
think
be interesting to see if they go forward now with referees at every table, if they're going to get to. Well, I don't think for this round there'll be referees at every table, but once they get to that point, if they're going to start enforcing it a little bit more.
Well, it's like he's got great timing, and because everything's frozen, right? You see balls kind of dance around, but is he really putting a whole lot of force? No, but his technique is so on point, and he's pocketing the one ball with ease, and then he's just figuring things out from there. But if I'm gonna go and say forceful, no, I don't know we'll ever get that with the template, Mike, because these guys are gonna have, and it's only gonna continue to get worse, in,
Well,
in
so
my opinion.
forceful's in the rule, right?
Right, but it's very arbitrary, Mike, because what you may go and deem as forceful, I may not go and see it the same way.
Well, they're just
You
going
know,
to have referees who are willing to, put their stones on the line and say, I don't think that's forceful. You got to do better.
I'll tell you, Marcel don't give a shit about that. He ain't got no problem going and telling someone you better
Right.
go and hit it hard. And
Right.
and I like that, by the way. I
Yeah, me
like
too.
his. It's different than John. Marcel Marcel makes the game be more proper. I think. Not that John Dutton, but just I like that he's not afraid to kind of put his foot down, even though he may kind of be villainized at times for certain things. He's willing to go and make the call that he feels is right, and I can
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, moving on, Mike. We got Jason Shaw versus Levan Corteza. This could be a
Great
final,
matchup.
Mike, right here.
Great
Fantastic match.
matchup. Yeah.
And it doesn't
That's a,
get any easier. I saw Jason's roll of the eye as from here in South Texas, even though he's in Atlantic City, when this guy went and shows up on his draw, because Jason does not get the good end of the draw on matchroom events when it comes time to single elimination ever. Like
yeah.
He never gets a cupcake. It's always the toughest of toughest opponents all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, 2019, he went undefeated through the first, rounds, and then they redrew and he drew into filler.
Filler. How brutal
How'd
was
that
that,
work
right? Who do you got here, Mike?
out? Jason's my horse. I got it. He's Team Pinozo, Team BD. So
I
I
got
got to
Levan,
go.
by the way. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
I'm I'm
Dinner,
I'm gonna I'm gonna
dinner.
leave the I'm gonna leave no, no, no. Oh no, I'm good. Thank you though, Mike. I appreciate you. Um I'm gonna leave the fantasy out of it on this one if I'm going just what I've seen. Um it's tough. I'm gonna go with Jason as well.
Yeah,
I root for Jason. I'm a big fan of his, and he knows that. And I like his game. On top of that, I think he's exciting to go and watch. I
yeah,
think he can go and deliver. Is it going to be easy? Hell no, it's not going to be easy, because Levan, they don't call Levan the Slayer for nothing. He's got that nickname for a reason, and you better believe Jason's aware of it. It's a very, very, very dangerous matchup. One of these guys could go on a run, but I tell you, even, and we're not going to go and move too far ahead here, but if whoever gets out of this round, it doesn't get any easier, because you got to expect Copigny to get past Daniel Maciel right below it,
yeah.
and that would also be as heavy a matchup as Jason and Levan. But I don't know about you, Mike, but I really like Cole in that following one.
Yeah, for sure. Cole against Maciel, you got to go with him all day long there. And then, yeah, Cole against Jason. That's, again, Jason doesn't get any easy outs when it comes to single
No,
elimination. I mean,
that's pretty brutal though, man. You got Levan and
you
then you
look at
got
the four
Cohen.
guys, you look at the four guys and the one right below them,
Yeah, yeah, right. No disrespect to anyone, but
and
Jason
yeah,
would love to be down there. I
yeah,
can tell you that.
they're all great players at this point. But if he's looking at the next foursome, and it's
Jason might
Max
be willing to give up
Lemmer
a leg
against
to be in that
Labutus
bracket of four.
and Jonas against Imran, yeah, Jason would love to be down around there.
I think this is very much a a flip of the coin, and anything can kind of happen for players. You know, I I thought I loved Max coming out of there until I saw him go 9-8 against some guy I never heard of from Austria. P.S. We've seen a lot of him. He can play pool. He's not a major European player. Maybe he can go and get there. Um, you beat Max, okay, that's great. And then you're gonna have Jonas. To me, Jonas has had the most momentum only because of what we saw at the European. Now you're in
Yeah,
the single elimination of this one. But hell, even Imran had a deep run. I think, what was it, Mike, in the UK Open? I think he was the last
yeah,
Brit
did well.
Yeah, did really well. Survived Adrian, which by the way, Mike, thanks for posting Adrian wins, and then come to find out that that Imran goes on and
No
wins.
one,
Um,
no one was more disappointed than Adrian to find out that the scoreline was wrong.
he was all over social media saying that he won. Congratulations, kid. He's over there wiping his tears away. But no, he's a
Hey, that was a
shout out
Q
to
score
Adrian.
mistake, not mine.
It's true. Shout out to Adrian though. He's a hell of a kid.
Oh,
Just a
love him.
all around
Yeah,
genuine young
great
man
guy.
with a bright future. But those four, Mike, flip a coin. If I'm gonna go and pick, I would say Max and Jonas, but could it be the other way around? 1,000%. I'm gonna say Jonas comes out of there though somehow, some way. So,
So
well, Mike,
if you look at the next foursome, you get to understand that the guy who's come out of this with a pretty good shot is Alvin.
I mean,
I
you're
mean,
facing the reigning world 10 ball champion
right. He is facing, and he could face Atencio after that. You know, so that's it's a little tougher than I was actually thinking it was going to be. Yeah, Wojciech and Alvin. I don't know. Who do you like?
I I'm not gonna go and bet against Albin playing 9 ball pool. I won't. There's very few players on earth that I'll bet against that man playing 9 ball. And I'm sorry, Woj, but it ain't you, buddy. I'm going with Albin. But I tell you, this for me has all the makings of if you want to be a star in pool, here's your chance, Jesus, because you can go beat a guy who's gotten in pretty much every final here in the States over the last 12 months in Roland Garcia. And if Albin goes on to beat his match against Wojcik, or even if he doesn't and Jesus gets past Roland, you got to think it's even money against Wojcik. I think Jesus has got the most upside here to come out of those four players. If you want to be a big time pool player, kid, here's your chance. You got big boys in front of you, and you got all the ability in the world to go and knock every one of these guys down, including Albin, I feel like.
Yeah, I'd love to see him make some kind of run like that. That would be exciting as hell, wouldn't it?
For sure, without a doubt, Mike. Right below that, Mike, we got David Alcady versus Ko Ping Chung. Yeah, that's about as heavyweight as you can go and get as well for a first round in a final 64. Mike, this could be like a semifinal. You know,
Yeah, that's a pretty sporty one. David's just so consistent. He just he just finds his way to win every match he plays. And he's always there late in the tournament when you're looking at names. You always see that Spanish flag, and he's always right there. Um, so I don't know. Who do you like in that one?
I'm going Team Spain all the way. Little Cole losing to Shane Wolford the way he did, married with like what you just said, David's consistency over the last 12 months. David, by the way, can still go and make a Mosconi Cup run if the numbers are right and if he goes deep in this event or maybe even snaps it off, right, Mike? Or at least be in contention to maybe snag a wild
Yeah,
card.
I mean he's pretty much got to reach the final. Same with like Mario He, if they want to try to push someone away on points. They also would need to have Francisco lose relatively early now in this round of 64, or Albin lose immediately in the round of 64, and they would have to push all the way to the final to start making that kind of waves in the points ranking. But it'd be fun to see something like that, start to come to happen. I mean, it'd be fun. That would make some scoreboard watching pretty
We
interesting.
we always have these like great storylines, Mike. It seems like in the last few majors, where out of nowhere you just see these things kind of develop that weren't there, and then all of a sudden, and especially in this event because there was so many potential outcomes happening. And I know we're just barely at the beginning of it, really, because the final 64 is really where it starts to get, nitty gritty. But yeah, I think this is marquee right here. David and Little Co. It could go either way, but David's 9 ball game, we've seen a lot more of it over the last few years actually, and the guy's just hitting on all cylinders. Right below that, Mike, you got Thorsten, the Hitman Home, and Niels Fine. I,
That's a
good,
Collins matchup right there,
good,
buddy.
good luck. Good
that's
luck
a
picking.
that's a Collins matchup. He's going old school on some vintage 9 ball. Torsten and Niels. Uh, you know, I mean, they both kind of scraped through a couple of tight matches in this tournament. I don't see either one of them going too deep. To be honest with you,
Nope.
but someone's got to win this one. Who do you like?
I like David or Little Co. in that match. That's who I like. And if I'm being perfectly frank with you, I don't see the potential here for many waves. if I'm gonna go and pick one of them, I'm 1,000% going Niels, and it's not even close. Only because Neil is just such a champion. I saw Thorsten kind of shake a little bit in the World Cup of Pool. I saw Thorsten kind of shake a little bit doing spot shots in Michigan. I saw Thorsten kind of shake a little bit at the World Team Championships out in Austria.
Yeah.
So that's my reasoning behind it.
So
Go ahead,
if
Mike.
you look at these brackets, then the winner of the Alcade co-match looks to go 2 or 3 rounds beyond that.
Without it, let's see, 1 round,
Because
2 rounds.
you got the winner of
Oh yeah,
Thorsten and
yeah, without a
Niels, and then
doubt.
you got the bracket right underneath that, which is Besar, Yanni Uski, Al Youssef, and Dennis Gray.
If you're gonna get a stumbling block, it's those last two you mentioned in Dennis and Abdullah. Those are the two guys who can maybe quote unquote do an upset. Now, out of the four, who would I go and pick? I would say probably Abdullah, if like just from an upset standpoint, because he's shown more consistency over the last, let's say 8-9 months or so. But Baser's just knocking down names. Hell, he took down Dennis Gray, or today, as a matter of fact. So that's kind of weird. They're in that
Yeah,
same bracket on this
9-5. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Baser can definitely go and play. I don't know, but you're right, Mike. It really does weight that David and Little Co matchup just that much more, just given that area in the bracket that they're in, and you really got to love that to be a dogfight. And it's kind of like, hey, if you get past here, that's the toughest opponent you're going to have for a little bit, and now you can just kind of get your wheels greased, in the next few rounds, getting ready for the final. Would it be 32-16 to into the final 8? Really, right, Mike?
Well, the win here, first one would get you into 32. Second one would get you into 16.
Yeah. So
Uh,
30. Oh, so 32, and then
32,
16. Yes.
16. Yeah, it would get you to 8.
Yeah. So you
8.
really, I mean, that puts a lot of weight in that area. Right below that, Mike, you got Shane Wolford over Kwok. Is this going to be a letdown, Mike? Is Shane going to continue his run after beating Little Co, or is he going to just continue to solidify his Mosconi Cup stamp here?
Love to see him. Love to see him take. But these are these dangerous guys that that you see the name and you don't see a lot of top 5 finishes, top 10 finishes, but they're dangerous, dangerous players. So Shane's gonna have to. He's gonna have to play his best game. You have to get through this. He's not going to get away with any, half-assed play. He's going to have to play pretty perfect to win this match, I think.
I mean, it's a lot easier an opponent in my mind than Little Co, but
Oh
there's
yeah,
also there's also a potential for a letdown, right? Because you can kind of breathe a little bit easier. Maybe there's some celebrating tonight. I don't know. It doesn't get any easier even if you go and fade Kwok, who's a very strong Vietnamese player.
yeah.
Right below that, Mike, you got Clenny
That's
Kachi
heavyweight.
versus Johan Chua. Mike, who do you got there?
Boy, that's a heavyweight battle there, isn't it? Kachi, he's had a pretty good. He's had some close matches in this event. He hasn't blown a lot of people out. He's gone like 9-7. He went to 9-7 against Kwok. Went to 9-7 against Vitaly Patsura. So he's had some tight matches, but we talked about it yesterday. He just goes forward, and you can't stop him. He just keeps grinding and keeps moving forward. Nothing spectacular, but he's obviously he's a world champion. He's a great player. So, I think you got to go with Kachi here.
Flip a coin, Mike.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. Flip a coin. I think both these players are very evenly matched. It's kind of crazy. I think about it, and I've probably seen more of Chua than I have Clenty over the last few
2 years.
months.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe Clenty's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder. Maybe he feels like he ought to be on this year's team. I don't know that to be the case, but I could see where he could have an argument for that. I don't think he's got any chance on making this team's Mosconi Cup whatsoever.
No, not a chance.
Even if he's in the Final Four. But yeah, this is going to be a fantastic matchup. It could really go either way. If it's a race to 9, I'm thinking 9-7 either way. If I'm gonna go and bet some money on it, I'd probably go Chua. You know,
Yeah. Okay.
I my only concern is like with Johan is like stuff like today with Ko. I think it was his match to go and take. I think that he kind of gets starstruck a little bit when it comes to some of these name guys and saying like I'm playing against these guys who I've idolized, for so many years. And I think he's in that same class, but you got to kind of have to go and
You got
take
to
the
go
bull,
do
but
it one of these
you
days.
got to
Yeah.
go and do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
without a
You
doubt.
got to do it.
Um,
But one of the things that made me laugh was talking about Kachi has no chance to make Team Europe. Okay, so Federer loses immediately tomorrow and Kachi wins the tournament.
ooh, good luck, Alex.
There's nothing
What would you
better than
say? That's a
nothing.
hell of a question. I mean, that a lot of things
I love
got to go right and got to go wrong here, Mike. But
yeah, I love these hypotheticals at somebody else's expense. You know, it's always,
I'd probably, I'd probably go Kachi. I mean, if you're gonna make me make a decision, and if you go and take down these names, which Kachi will have along the way,
yeah,
I think that would be a hell of an argument, and more importantly, at the right time, Mike. That's the biggest
yeah.
thing. What have you done for me lately? Federer didn't necessarily look his best starting off in this event. And if you lose to a guy like Tyler, which this is the next matchup we're going to be talking about, first of all, I think Tyler's a big underdog. I just want to make that very clear. But if somehow, some way that it goes and happens, and Tyler can get up on big names, Tyler can get up on Josh Filler, Tyler can get up on a bunch of big boys. But when it comes to
Closing
getting
the
to
deal.
nine, when
Yeah.
it gets from that 7, 8, 9 range, he can kind of stumble a little bit. But it makes for a hell of a question, Mike. I think it'd be a really tough choice for Alex, but I think Federer's just done too much this year to overlook him.
Well,
Now that I think
there's
about
there's even money chance that Federer doesn't get past the next match if he beats Tyler, right?
it, well,
I mean,
that next matchup, it doesn't get any bigger than that because
no,
you expect Josh to cruise through Kyle Akalu, the South African. No disrespect to Kyle, but Josh is a different animal. He's a different monster, a different player, and a different 9-ball beast. And he's all those things and then some. And Federer is, I don't want to say as big of a favorite as Josh is, but he's not
pretty
too far
close.
off. It's not too far off there. So you really expect for those two monsters to meet up in that second round. Who would you go and bet on, Mike?
You know what? Federer's one of my favorite guys in pool. I think if I had to, if someone said put a gun to my head and said I had
No,
to
no,
bet
no, no.
one,
Leave what you know about the players and your
I
personal
got,
relationships
I got to go
out the
Josh.
door. I got to go Josh too, Mike, and I'm with you. I love Federer, but I've seen more of Josh on this 9-ball stage with this
Right,
equipment.
exactly it. That's
And
exactly it.
that's what I'm going and banking on if I'm
Yeah,
putting my money on Josh against Federer. It's his ability to close and to be consistent and to have more experience than Federer does under those lights, those balls, that cloth,
this
that
is
stage,
what
Mike.
this is what Josh lives for, right? Federer lives to win matches, make money, whatever. Josh lives for this big stage. This is the type of stuff that Josh lives, salivates about, lives for, and so and he's been on it so many times and has succeeded so many times that it's just hard to bet against him. You got to have some real commitment for who the opponent is if you're going to bet against Josh in any of these matches.
And Federer's right there with him when it comes to abilities. It's
Yeah,
just
100%.
when you start nitpicking guys, you start looking at the other things involved in that matchup. And for me, it's where you're playing it. Now, if they're playing at some pool room out there in
Des Moines.
Lexington or whatever, yeah, then hell, give me Federer.
Yeah,
I like it, you know. Um, but on that stage, Mike, you're right. Josh just this is what he lives for. He is super not super. He's hyper competitive. You know, he cannot stand going and losing. And the bigger the name, the bigger he gets up for.
yeah.
Ask Shane, who's his biggest rival, right now. Shane will tell you himself, it's Josh. And the reason being is because Josh has had his number consistently over the last few years. This is just what that kid does, and he's done it over and over and over
Yeah.
again. But Federer is the popular name today, Mike, and especially here at a U.S. Open where Federer has a lot of American fans. So it's
Yeah.
going to be a
That's
hell of a matchup, Mike.
that's going to be. I'm pretty sure that that'd be on table one.
Boy, I tell you what, if uh if some of these guys go and ruin this potential matchup, uh, Jason says my boy just had a fancy porterhouse at dinner. Bet on my boy. Well, and that changes everything, by the way.
What
Uh,
did Jason say? I'm not
he
seeing the
says,
comment.
let me see. Let me bring up the chat here if I can turn off. We got a bot in there, so that's why. And plus, we were going through the matches. But Jason says my boy just had a fancy porterhouse at dinner. Bet on my boy. We we
Oh,
go and
good.
we
He's not going to sleep well because he ate a big steak.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know, Diddy. I don't know.
It's splitting hairs, when you talk about these guys, but they're elite players. Both of
Yeah.
them are, you know.
And whatever you do,
Um,
Jason, do not tell Federer that I picked Filler.
earmuffs, earmuffs, buddy. But no, this is listen, and I swear, if somehow, some way, Tyler ruins that party, and or Kyle Akalu, messes up my dreams of seeing this potential matchup, I'm gonna be just heartbroken, Mike, because I
Yeah.
really,
You know what?
I really, really want to see those guys go and battle it out on the U.S. Open.
What kind of odds would you give on both of them winning?
Well, even if one of them wins, it totally spoils it because if one of those guys wins, the other one that's the name player is going to be a heavy favorite going into that next matchup, and it
Yeah.
completely
Yeah.
just takes the excitement out of it for me.
Yeah.
Right below that, Mike, you got Chia Chin over. I think isn't this Amber Chin? Is that who it is? No, it's not.
No.
It's not. No. This is
This is the guy. This is the guy who
yeah,
beat
yeah,
Albert.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is the guy who beat
It's
Albin
actually
against.
the last name is the first name, which
That's
I
what
don't
it
know if it's
is.
pronounced Shai or Shai or Hasai. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
If I'm
anyways,
if
he's
I'm
a solid
if I'm
player.
butchering it, if I'm butchering it, Joey says you guys may have to go on without me. Joey, I hate to break your heart if you watch, buddy, but
Joe, we have to go on.
we've been on for 52 minutes now, my man. Yeah,
This is
that's
round two.
without a doubt. And yeah, second take. Jose Alberto Delgado, another strong Spaniard who is back yet again, Mike. We saw him at the
Yeah.
European, and yeah, you can go and have one tournament where you do okay. These two guys, Mike, that are the younger brothers, so to speak, of FSR and David, they're starting to make their own name and their own stamp on nine ball pool if they continue to make waves. I think this is a hell of a litmus test here against a strong Taiwanese player who's taken down Albin. I'm gonna go with Taiwan, Mike. But
Yeah.
what if
Yeah.
if I go and look at momentum, you got to go with Delgado, right?
Yeah. But I don't know. The other kid, I mean, Delgado's coming out of losers bracket, right? So, the Taiwanese kid has not lost this week. So
We
you would think he's actually playing a little better than Delgado. But yeah, I think I'm going Chen on this one too.
You got Oscar versus Babika in there right below it, Mike. You think this could be a letdown match for O?
Oh, I don't think O should. I don't think anything's a letdown match for O. I don't think he's
Well,
so.
but like, but
I
what
don't
but
think
what I
he's so
what I
favored
mean
over.
by that is like after kind of you think he's breathing a little easier now, getting past Sanjin and maybe saying, okay,
You know Oscar better than that. He wants
I
more.
do, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he wants more. He wants more. And I think he's got to look at this and say, wow, now I got an even money shot to go final 32 now. I don't have to settle for being just having reached the single elimination. Babika's good player, really
He is
strong player, like all the Polish are. But he could have done a lot worse.
very well seasoned player. He's been around for a long time, Mike.
But Oscar could have done a lot worse, right?
If you're coming off a win like Sanjin, this is me putting my friendship to the side here. If you're coming off a win like Sanjin, you got to follow that up with a win over Babika.
Yep.
What you're right in that Oscar does not go and settle for what he just did. I mean, I'm asking hypotheticals here, but I know a lot of these answers just knowing him personally. You know, I think what he did today, beating Sanjin Hill, being down 8-6 and coming back. And I tell you what, I was sweating every bit of that matchup because I got FaceTimed to go and sweat it. And I'm watching ball for ball until security came and stopped the FaceTime, which thanks a lot to whoever that security guard is um, out there at Atlantic City. But yeah, you got to go and follow that up, and you're in a really good spot here. You know,
Yeah,
if you look at these four guys, be on paper, Chin's maybe a hair of a favorite, but that's it. You know, Oscar's right there with him, and I think it's close to even money with all those four players. I like him getting through Babika, and I'd be willing to go and bet a little bit on the following round as well, taking Oscar.
yeah, he's got a good chance to go top 16 here, which would be that would be so cool for Oscar to do that, right?
This is the I'm gonna pause this shit for a minute because this is what I love about it. It's that Oscar's Oscar's felt like it's been disrespect to him for many years, and he said, despite all being overlooked and not being picked all this time, I'm gonna go out there and show you that my game still got it. Not none of this other bullshit that gets thrown along with it, or at least that it has been over the years. It's my pool game is gonna go and carry me to go and be one of the five American players out there in December. Now, from a money list standpoint, relative to Europeans, it's a little rough, but he certainly earned that ability to be one of the five out there in December, and I'm really proud of him for sure.
Yeah, no,
So right below that, Mike, you got Moritz, who's continuing his run. He beat Sky Woodward 9-5, and now he's against some guy who I've never heard of before, Mustafa Al something.
Alnar,
Yeah, I'm
Turkey.
gonna go. Yeah. I'm going with Moritz, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, he had a great run at Turning Stone. I mean, at Sandcastle, Moritz. Uh, you know, he's been on the rise the last couple of years. Everybody's going, watch out for this kid, watch out for this kid, and he's here. So he's, yeah, I like him. I like him pretty big in this one.
Mario He versus Chris Reinhold. This is gonna be a good matchup. I feel like for both players. I think it's a lot of it's pretty weighted, all things considered, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to give Mario a pretty heavy, favorite status on this. If for nothing else, that Chris really hasn't played a lot, this year. Certainly the second half of this year. So for him to come in and put his camera down and start hitting balls again, he's done really well. He's had
You
some,
just have to throw that in there, huh? You just have to
one
throw that in there. Yeah.
one nail biter after the next. But that's good. It builds character. So maybe he can, Mario can go up and down a little bit. So maybe he can. I mean, Mario barely, he was behind 3-4 games to Roland, wasn't he?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
something like
came
that.
back and won that. So you can get up on him, and then if you can hold him at bay, maybe you can win a match. So we'll see. It's good test, good opportunity for Chris to show that getting into that final 64 wasn't any kind of fluke.
Without a doubt. But I think Mario's got a lot more to lose than Chris does here. You know, Mario's
Oh
got to
no, there's a
go.
lot on the line a lot at stake for Mario. If he still has his hopes alive for playing Team Europe, he knows he's got to go like to the finals.
Without a doubt, yeah. And that's his goal. You know, make no mistake about it. That's his goal. I
And
think
he's got the
he's
talent to do it.
who Mario. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
without a doubt. I mean, Mike, we saw Mario have Albin by the balls the last time that we saw him on a big stage. You
yeah.
know. Hold on one second, Mike. Okay, moving on, Mike. We got after that we got Naoki Oi versus Tayfon Teber. I don't know who this German player is, but if you're in a final 64 of a U.S. Open, you know you're up against it here facing Naoki Oi.
Yeah, no, Naoki, he's you look at all these events, he's usually around, you start looking at that last 16, he's usually there. Um, so I like him here. Um, I don't know who this young player is either, but that's got to be what at least five Germans in the final 64.
It's
You
pretty
got
strong.
Moritz, you got
I've
Torsten,
never heard of this guy
me
at all.
either. But you got Moritz, you got Torsten, you got uh, Josh, you got
Did Ralph lose in the loser side? I'm thinking. I mean, we'll
no,
know here in a minute, but
no, I
oh no,
think
Ralph's
Ralph is.
still in there. Yeah,
Yeah, Ralph's
he's.
still in there too. So yeah, you got five Germans in the final 64. It's pretty sporty.
I mean, there's a lot of other things to go be weighted here as well. I mean, hell, if Moritz goes on a run, you got to like his chances to go and be on a World Cup pool team with Josh potentially. You know, because
Yeah,
I don't think anyone else has shown that they're, you know, they're doing a whole lot to kind of cement their spot, so to speak, Mike. If that makes any sense,
yeah, yeah.
you know, Carlo Beato versus Petri Makinen. Yeah, I'm going with the reigning defending champion. Although it's good to see Petri back and through to the final 64.
Yeah, haven't heard a lot from him in the last year or so, last couple of years. But so it's good to see him, get to this point as on the winner's side. But yeah,
Conrad and Tim
kind of
Tim,
like
Tim
Carlo.
DeRuiter. I'm with you. Conrad and Tim DeRuiter, Mike.
Um, Conrad's solid. I mean, he's part of that Polish group that just they don't do anything but go in there and beat people. Um, and there's always I keep saying there's always three Polish players in that final 16, so he's got as good a shot as anybody.
I remember maybe like 2 weeks before the U.S. Open, I got hit up from a guy from overseas. I don't remember what country he's from, but there was there was odds on the outright winners from China or Taiwan or one of those Asian countries, and there was a site that was handicapping, and he was asking who I like, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna go out on a limb and I'm gonna say someone from Poland. Now I know there's 16 guys that could go and win from Poland, but I'm gonna stand by it, and I'm not saying Conrad's gonna come out and win there or win the event, but I still like one of the Polish guys to come through. I would
Yep.
still go and bank on Victor, more so than anyone else. But it's good to go and see those guys continuously go deep at big events. Um, Next up, Mike, you got Aloysius Yap versus
Ah,
Sanjin. Oof,
great
oof.
match.
How do you like Oscar winning now, Mike?
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I'm, I'm
Well,
just saying. I
I
mean,
don't
there's
know.
no way of knowing that you're going to end up in that spot against Yap, but how brutal will that have been?
Well,
You know,
they drew into those spots, right?
it's true. Yeah. So
So,
there's no
but
guarantee.
either way, this is a great matchup of
It's a
young
fantastic matchup, Mike.
young guys who are like going to be you're going to be seeing a lot of for a lot of years to come. But you got to go with Yap. I mean, to me, it's Yap against Yip because I love
Explain a
Stan.
little bit, Mike. Let's
Well,
go and
because
elaborate on that.
listen, I love Sanjin's game. He's going to be a great player. He
But
needs to get over that end of match yips that he gets. And he's gotten them. We've seen it multiple times. We saw it against Filler in the European Championship. We saw it against Filler in the World Games. He should have been out in the case rack against Oscar today. So he does have that little hitch when it comes to that finish line, and we know Yap doesn't. So just from
well,
that alone, and from Yap's, how well he's playing this year, got to give him, I mean, to me, a pretty solid edge.
I'm with you. Um, Hold on, let me take this down here. Sorry. Um, I'm 1,000% with you. That was an accident, by the way. Um, I'm 1,000% with you. Everything you just said, I cannot go and argue with. Sanjin is a great player with a very, very bright future ahead of him. I don't want to go and take anything away from the kid, but he should have beaten Oscar. When I messaged Oscar, that was the first thing he said. The kid dogged it, in so many words, and he did. And if you when you start saying all these big time moments, it's great that you're there, right? It's great that you're there in a World Games final. It's great that you're there in a European Open or European Championship final. But you got to go, and when you have a chance to win, that's the biggest thing, Mike, because
Right.
he's had chances to go and win all of those things. Comes up short. Now I know he won the European 10 ball championships. This is a little bit different. Yap's a big boy, and what I mean by that is his game, not in stature. The guy is big time. Was in a final of this specific event last year. We saw him go and win 2 open tournaments over the last 4 weeks, 2 different disciplines.
Yeah.
The guy. I thought Yap had nerves. I thought Yap had shakes about him. I thought he had holes in his game when it came to big time moments. He's gotten rid of that, Mike. The
Right.
guy delivers and delivers in big spots. This is a big, 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 big matchup. I
Yeah.
cannot go on understated at all. And you got to go and like either one of these guys once they get past here. I like them against Conrad or Tim. No disrespect to either one of those
Right.
guys, but they're going to be a heavy underdog over either one of these guys. But I'm 100% with you, Mike. Give me Yap and give me Yap convincingly.
Yeah.
Up next, you got Ralph Suke against FSR. Is Francisco got another tournament title um, in sight, Mike?
I think he's got another deep run in sight for sure. I haven't looked too far ahead from this, but I like him, to get to the 16. I think
He's a
he certainly has the game to get to 16 or 8 for sure, even in this field. And then we'll see what happens after that. If he gets to 8, then his spot on Mosconi is locked up, right? Money wise, you can't beat him.
I don't think there's any way you can leave him off right now. I just don't. I don't care if he loses right now. I mean, if someone goes and steals a spot, it'd be hard from what I've seen of him all year long to leave him off of
Yeah, no,
my
I'm just saying
European team.
the only way it even comes into the picture is if someone else steals that point spot, and all of a sudden you have to make decisions between, say Albin and
And
Jason
Jason,
and
yeah, yeah.
and Francisco, or Jason and Francisco and Federer. Okay, now if you got to pick two out of those three,
Okay. So let's say you got between Federer and FSR as a wild card pick.
okay, and it depends on what Federer to me does against Filler.
Don't give me that shit, Mike. Go.
What?
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You're right. A lot of hypotheticals can go and happen here. I like Francisco over Ralph. More
Yeah,
importantly, I think he's going to be at least a 3 game favorite over Ralph. I also like him in the next matchup as well. Roberto Gomez, Wu Kun Lin. I'm going to go with Wu Kun Lin coming out, although Roberto seems to be spoiling the party match after match after match. And we've seen him go and have some success over the last few months. But I think this is a different animal in Wu Kun Lin. And I also think even if you find some way to fade him, you got FSR who does everything right, playing 9-ball pool on a matchroom stage.
yeah.
I like Francisco coming out of that group there. Victor Solinsky, Mike against John Mora. It's a pretty good matchup. I don't think it's as big as the others that we talked about, but it's right there, maybe a
Yeah,
tier
it's
below.
solid matchup. John's going to be in there. He's always in these matches. He always takes them deep. But I like Victor.
I'm with you 1,000%. I like Victor, although I'm trying to think of like a way that I can go and pick John here. I don't know that I can. You know, we haven't really seen Victor, I guess, go deep on a matchroom stage. That would be the only thing. But then again, I don't remember John doing a whole lot on a matchroom stage either. Um, yeah, I'm gonna go with Victor without a doubt. Right below that, Mike, you got Chang Jun Lin, Sky Woodward.
Well, Chang is Chang. Seems like he's starting to hit a little bit of a groove. He's played really well. So, you know, it's a tough one to pick against. I mean, I like Sky. I don't think Sky's looked all that great this week. Um, so, it'd be hard to pick against Chang here.
I think he's got a lot of excuse to go and maybe come up short because it is Chang and because of the equipment change. Although he's in a final 64 playing with new equipment. Um, Chang's a monster, man. Chang's an absolute
Yeah, he
monster.
is.
It's going to be really tough for Sky. But I don't know. For me, like if Sky was playing for a Mosconi Cup spot, it'd be completely different and weighted a lot more differently. The fact that me and you both think Sky's a lock, and I would bet all my money in the bank that Sky makes it on this team. I just think that pressure is maybe not going to be there as much for Sky. Uh, sure, he wants to go and win a U.S. Open, but he's going to be really up against it against that guy. That dude is something else. Chang
Yeah.
is next level for me. Omar Al Shaheen, Mike, and Gregory Hogue can spank and continue to spoil the party.
Well, I mean, the reason I think that he could is just that, I mean, this is the best I've seen Omar, look in a
We
tournament
ain't seen Omar in hell
in
since
a
the
long
final.
time. So,
Yeah.
Omar must be playing pretty well. He pounded Babika, beat Ernesto. So yeah, I mean, he hasn't had the roughest road to get here, but we know what Omar can be like when he's playing well. So if he is playing well, that's a tall order for Greg. Um, if Omar's just kind of getting by some of these matches, then maybe you have a puncher's chance. But uh, I'm not putting a lot of hope into it.
Yeah. Um, Even Omar's B game, I'm still gonna go on like Omar just because of what
Yeah,
I seen of him on this stage, and I mean that as politely as I can go and be. But Greg, listen, you're still here and you're still going and saying I belong. Well, here's some more opportunity to go and really show us you go and belong. Omar, we ain't really seen him since that final a couple years ago, but we all know what kind of potential that he's got in any event if he goes and Omar's the way Omar strikes the ball is really unique, and he can look really exciting and can just make the game really fun. But if
yeah,
he's off a little bit and
it
he
can look
starts
bad.
and he
It
starts
can look
drawing
bad.
things up because of the way he strokes the ball, old Spanky may go and spoil the party. Right below that, you got Loho Sum versus Mark Beasterbosh.
Let's
This is
jump
a
back. Let's jump back just one real. And I just want to point out, we haven't been overly fancy on a lot of the U.S. players in a lot of these matchups, but I
yep.
got to say how impressed I am that the U.S. Open, where last year all everybody did was bash U.S. players who were just dead money in the tournament, yada yada. And this year we're talking about how lousy the Mosconi Cup team's going to be, and no one's made more than $4,000. And all these guys came into this event knowing that they kind of, you know, they were going to have to show up and do something to get noticed. We got 7 guys in the final 64. That to me is, and Billy Thorpe's not even one of them. So that to me is pretty impressive. These guys have stepped up in matches that they could win, and they've managed to get themselves into the single elimination part of the tournament. Final 64 out of 256. That's good on these guys for doing that. I mean, from a Greg Hogue to a to Tyler to Chris Reinhold. Nick DeLeon was right on the fringe there. So good for these guys for taking it seriously, stepping up, and trying to bring their best game here.
Listen, any of these guys who want to go and dog on some of these Americans for maybe not going deep in tournaments, like I'm gonna say this, I think styles make fights, and in pool the game matters, right? So if you're rating them best off based off of who's a better tournament player, you can't go and argue numbers and what a lot of these Europeans have done. But if you want to go and gamble some and win a lot of money just outright against one guy, there's a few Americans that I would go and put up against these guys who have quote unquote won a lot of money, and you can go find out what you're really made of. Um, and Sky would be one of them as well, who's in that quote unquote $4,000 to $5,000 range or whatever. I'm sure there's a lot of games where they'd love to go and accommodate some of these guys. Where if you're looking down on them, just give them a little bit more respect than that. Listen, there's no doubt that Europeans are great at 9 ball, and they're great tournament players. But we can appreciate different aspects of a player's game based off of what it is. This is the U.S. Open. I remember a lot of guys were all gone last year, I think, except for Shane, going
Yeah,
into that single elimination. So it's a big step.
it is.
Um,
And I that's what I'm saying. I think these guys. I'm glad that it's more about the players than about the haters that I'm impressed with. That the players have stepped into the tournament pool arena and taken it seriously and said, I'm going to show you know that I belong into consideration or the discussion when it comes to American players for Mosconi Cup or whatever it is, and they've given it a good run. I mean, I'm all for this, guys. This like I said, 7 guys in the final 64. That's pretty good.
that's fantastic because Greg had some pretty decent wins. P's a really strong pool player, not just a strong women's player. Um, and to go and have that win and a few others on his W list out there in Atlantic City, it's great. And I know he won Sandcastle, and there was a lot of really great players there too as well. But I think he played Danny Olson in that final, if I'm not mistaken. Um, you got to do a little bit more, and you got an opportunity. I'll put it like
Yeah,
that. If you're Greg, and but listen, the same Greg's made more of a statement. Now I'm gonna put it like this. Greg's made more of a statement than a lot of these other guys who have been on the Mosconi Cup this year, like a Tyler or a Chris, just from his play standpoint. But you gotta keep it going. You know,
yeah.
we gotta see more of a resume. Um, Loho Sum, Mike, Mark Beesterbosch. Who you got?
I like Lobo some here. He's a solid player. I mean,
He's a
no one
grinder of a
loves.
player, Mike.
Yeah, no one, has to like playing him. But Lobo some playing good pool.
He's always kind of an afterthought. And then, oh, by the way, he's in a final of a World Pool Masters. You know, he's still around and he plays great. But Mark's a very difficult opponent. Mark's like a trap opponent for a great player. And I remember watching. I think was it Fortunsky, who just looked unstoppable at that World Pool Masters until he ran into Loho Sum. So
Yeah,
I think they're both kind of similar in that regard. Um, I don't know. Toss up the coin. But Loho Sum's done a lot more lately, and I think I'm with you, Mike. I'd go with him right
yeah.
now. Thomas Kaplan over Marcel Price. What do you got?
Um, you know, I'll take Kaplan just because he's Polish.
I'll be honest with you. I don't know a lot about Marcel's game
I
to
don't
go and
either,
to be
but I
able to
know
clock
Polish
it.
guys can play pool.
Yeah, this is kind of one of those. I'm betting on the Filipino player. In this case, I'm betting on the Polish player playing nine ball. So, no disrespect to Marcel, but I think I'm going to go with Kaplan on this one. And last but certainly not least, at the bottom of that bracket, and really it's this particular
Tough.
matchup. These guys have a chance to really make a very deep run. You
Yes.
know, and especially with that area that they're in down there, all by their
Yep.
lonesome, because except for Chang and Sky, they're in a pretty comfortable spot. You like them to go and win through 32, 16, yeah, at least down to the final eight. So Shane Van Boning against Alex Kazakis, and I remind you, Mike, last time we saw these boys go and dance,
Nine to
Alex
nothing.
put Alex whoop Shane's ass like he stole something, Mike. I mean,
Yeah.
put a beat down on SVB. I'm gonna ask you, is Shane gonna continue his run for six?
Yes. I mean, I think one of the best things Shane has going for him is the memory of that World Pool Masters going completely. I mean, everything went Alex's way. So I think that Shane's going to come in there tomorrow loose and ready to play, and I think he takes Alex down. I think he takes him down. I'm my heart says, my gut tells me he's going to take him down pretty easily.
I don't know if I can bet against Shane in a U.S. Open. I know the format's a little different. I know what we saw of Alex last time they went and played. Um, yeah, I think I'm gonna go with you here. I like Shane. I remind you, of we've seen tournament after tournament where guys kind of dodge bullets here, dodge bullets there, and they go on to win the event. Shane should have lost to Joey. Shane was at like 5-4 to Margaret. But if Shane starts to get more comfortable, I mean, who's going to stop him? You know,
Yeah,
Albin stopped him in a final, a couple of months ago, but that was it. There's not very many players who can go at this point to go and do it. A motivated Shane is dangerous. You know that. A player like Shane who's free. Shane's got a lot of monkeys off his back over the last year, Mike, and he seems to be getting better and better as the tournament progresses. He's kind of like Filler, where he steps up. It's going to be tough, but I'm going to go with SVB here. I don't know that he's going to win six. I like him to go be at least in the final eight if he gets past Alex, and I like him to get past Alex. But
yeah.
he's in a very good spot to say the least. So, who do you like, Mike? From everyone you've seen so far, who do you like to go out right and win the event?
To win the event.
Yeah, you've watched a lot of pool over the last few days. Go up,
Just talked
go out.
about we talked about 64 players here.
Listen, you can see the bracket. You can see the
But
road to
the
victory
only
here.
thing the only thing you can go by at this point is take your top 4 or 5 players and try to look at who looks like he's got the
The
best
easiest
route.
road.
right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you were going to pick your top four players, wouldn't you have Federer and Filler in there someplace?
And they're
Well, one
facing
of
each
them's
other.
not one of them's not getting past the second round here. So that takes them. So from that standpoint, I look at the brackets and Mr. America, Shane's got a pretty good run. He's got a pretty good path to get to 8 or 4, right? He's got a pretty good path to get to 8. And at that point, you know, then he's a good chance. Some of these other guys going to be a lot tougher. Like I said, Federer and Filler, one of them's not going to make it to pass the round of 32. So
You can guarantee that they ain't gonna. One of them ain't gonna go and make it. Shane's in a really good spot. There's a few others who are as well. Um, Joven
yeah, I
kind of
mean,
spoiled Carlos' party. There's so many great matchups here in the final 64, Mike. Like, I mean, there's a couple of like dead money ones where I'm just not even the least bit interested. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
there's some really marquee matchups that are happening now. There's some amazing matchups that could happen in this round and in following rounds to go and come. Um, but give me a name, Mike. Damn, go on a limb. Give me something.
Yap's got a pretty good shot too for to get to 8, and then see what happens there. Um, you know, Winner of Federer and Filler. I mean, how could you not pick the winner of Federer and Filler to be a finalist? Yeah, I don't. That's too tough for me. What do you
Mm.
think?
Hell, I don't know. That's why I asked you. I'm gonna go with the guy who.
You're going to take Albin, aren't you?
No, negative, negative. But I'm gonna go with the guy who was in a final recently, and who's a monster. I'm gonna go with Chang Jin Lin. I don't think his route is necessarily the easiest because even if you get past Sky, I expect to have Victor Zelensky waiting for him in the very next round. But if I'm just gonna go and take a swing blindly, but who I'm rooting for, I mean, besides guys who I'm friends with, well, I mean a lot of these guys I'm friends with, but I'd like to go and see Shaw with that route. Start punching guys down left and right. I would love it because it'd be a great story, and it reminds me of SVB during that World Championship, where like it was like redemption story after redemption story after redemption story. So, and matter of fact, that was the last time he played Kazakis. He whooped him in the World Championships.
Uh, yes.
Yeah, he did. He beat him along the way. So even more reason why I like SVB.
10,
Matchup start at what time tomorrow, Mike?
right?
9 again? So 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m.
Yeah.
I think. I don't know if they're going on Facebook. I mean, on DAZN tomorrow. I got my DAZN
No,
subscription.
no,
I hope.
not
No.
until
Okay.
not until the final 16.
Okay. So for now, we're still going to be on Facebook Live and on YouTube. Follow the
Correct.
social medias. I share all of Matchroom's posts as well, so you'll be able to see the schedule on Windows Open. Um, and yeah, we'll be back tomorrow, and we're gonna try to get the guys on to do a fantasy update as well. So I know there's a lot of trash talking going on. I was doing some scores earlier, Mike. I kind of know who's gotten the lead. Now, I'll be honest with you, Mike. You didn't have a good day, and I'm just gonna leave it at that. I'm just gonna leave it at that. We will see you guys tomorrow. Enjoy the U.S. Open, and good luck to everybody.